Hi guys, this is gsno.com and I'm here with a review of the Samsung Galaxy Fold, the new and improved version. So it debuted in February initially, it was announced, and it should have been in stores in April. It got a setback when people started peeling off its protection. Now it's back, it was launched in September. In the new and improved version, it's still priced at around $2,000. It's a dual paradigm, the small phone that hides behind it a mini tablet. Okay, so we're here to review the device and tell you if it's worth it or not, especially considering the high price tag. So first things first, I'm going to talk about the design. When you open it up, it measures a mere 6.9 millimeters in thickness, which is not half bad. But when you close it up, it's 15.5 millimeters in thickness. A bit on the heavy side, 263 grams, although if you compare it to a tablet, it's not that heavy after all. Just to get a quick idea of the size we're dealing with here, I'm going to put this here and add close to it the largest Galaxy S10 5G. And as you can see, this one is a bit longer compared to the Galaxy Fold, and also I feel it's thicker than this one. Okay, so you can see them side by side like this. Here we are. Now if you fold it up, you're going to see another difference in size between the two of them. Obviously a narrow phone, and of course it's got a small external screen here. And the thickness, well, there's no longer a need to talk about that. Well, other things we're mentioning, let's put the Galaxy S10 5G on the side for now. So here we have the hinge. I have to say it's an impressive feat of engineering at first sight, and I have to tell you what they solved. First of all, there's still a gap between the two sides, but it seems smaller now compared to what was available at the start of the year. The other thing they changed was that the protection of the screen is now tucked below the edges, so people will not peel it off. Also, we have lids on the hinge ends, lids here and lids here, in order for the lint and the fur and the food not to get inside. And finally, one of the other changes which is available here is that the hinge was made a bit more discreet than in the initial version. That's about it. A premium build for sure, and it's made of glass, it's made of metal and plastic, and here we have magnets that will make it clack open and clack shut, and also we have a bunch of springs to also make everything work. Surprisingly grippy is my statement here. I never once had the feeling of dropping it, even when holding it open like this. So surprisingly grippy is what I found. On the display front, the big one is a 7.3-inch dynamic AMOLED with HDR10 Plus support, and the notch, as I said again, bothers me here. The small one is a 4.6-inch Super AMOLED this time, with an atypical resolution of 1680 over 720 pixels. Yes, I know it's small, but if you're going in the subway and rushing for an interview, you're going to be using this one. Now I want to show you a video on the big one, of course, so we can get a proper assessment of what we're dealing with here. And here we go, a special test video. Turning down the volume, and here we go. It's full HD, HDR, all the goodness one can imagine. And some things I found here. For example, I do not like the black bars around the image, and I do not like the fact that the notch is eating into the image. That's a bit of a bummer as far as the experience goes. I found the screen to be very bright, the colors to be extremely crisp, and in general I was happy with the quality of the image. Vivid colors, wide view angle, excellent contrast, no objection here, pretty much on par with the whole Galaxy S10 series. Of course, with an extra bit of inches added in the mix. Well, that's the experience of the screen. I'm happy with it, minus the notch, which frankly speaking shouldn't have been here. Here we have a bunch of settings. We got your adaptive brightness, blue light filter, night mode, and a bunch of screen modes. Okay, and also, once again, the fold can be felt when touched and seen on a white background. We move further from the screen into the hardware department, where we find a familiar face is the Qualcomm Snapdragon 855 CPU, accompanied by the best of the best, 12 GB of RAM, and also 512 GB of storage of the UFS 3.0 variety, and we do not have a micro SD card slot, in case you're wondering. Now I played a bit of Asphalt on it, and it was quite fetching. you're going to see that at the end of the review. Now, we also did a bunch of benchmarks, and the phone fared out quite well. I was expecting the tricky resolution to get in the way. As you can see, graphics wise, is placed on the first spot, beating any other phone. So if you're a gamer, you'll be happy with this piece of news. At the same time, in Antutu, second placed only after the iPhone 11 Pro Max. It's almost identical to the Galaxy Note 10 Plus in results, and in Geekbench 5, once again, top 3 material after the Xperia 5 and iPhone 11 Pro Max. So very solid performance. I was expecting it on account of the RAM, CPU and storage. And guess what? There's no problem with the overheating. The maximum level I reached in the benchmark was 36 degrees Celsius, so no overheating. Now let's talk about the battery. Okay, so the battery is a 4380 mAh unit, which because of the fact I only got to spend 2 days with the phone, I was only able to do some preliminary testing, and those preliminary tests include, well, playing with benchmarks and games. So after about 1 full day of benchmarks, we only lost about 60% battery, which is pretty impressive in my book. Once again, 4380 mAh split into, let's say one is 2100 and one is 2200, something like that. So you're going to easily get 1 day of usage, maybe 1 day and a half, even if you're a power user. And from what I've seen in other tests done by other colleagues from other websites, you're going to easily go past the 15-hour video playback mark. At least the charging, that one I tested, so it juices up fully to 100% from 0 in about a little below 2 hours, something like 1 hour and 50 minutes. Now on the speaker front, we got stereo setup, one at the bottom, one at the top, and the experience is pretty similar to what you've heard on the Galaxy Note 10 and the Galaxy S10, but let me just show this to you. So we should have play music here. Okay, so on the speaker front, let's listen to some tunes and see how the phone is able to handle them. So let me just go here, maybe find some music in the downloads, and here we go. Okay, so a punchy bass, if I ever heard one, a pretty solid volume. I would actually find it louder than the Galaxy S10 Plus. That's one of my finds on this device. Punchy bass, pretty solid voice all around, and there's an interesting feat here. I don't know if they intended for this. When you're holding the phone like this, which will be a pretty often occurrence, so when you're going to hold the phone like this, your palms will amplify the speakers. That's what I found, and it's rather nice. So once again, solid experience, loud, very good stereophony. The speakers are equal between themselves. None of them is better than the other. On the camera front, I will not want to detail it too much. So since I only had the phone during the winter, didn't have time to catch any sort of camera samples, but it's the same camera as the Galaxy S10 Plus. It's a combo of 12 megapixel, 16 megapixel and 12 megapixel. We got an LED flash. One of the camera has the dual aperture f1.5, f2.4. There's the telephoto 2x optical zoom and a 16 megapixel ultra wide camera, 123 degrees. Now the real kicker is that we have 2 sets of selfie cameras. This here is a 10 megapixel shooter, and here inside we have a combo of 10 and 8 megapixels like we had on the Galaxy S10 Plus. Now the camera interface has received some updates and the goodies that we saw on the Galaxy Note 10 series. For example, you have the live focus video, and that should tell you that we're up to date. Super slow motion, 160 frames per second. You can shoot 4K 60 frames per second video and 4K with the front camera. There's live focus, there's all the things people have come to love about the Samsung cameras, with the night mode of course included. Once again, no time to take shots, but it's the same experience as the Galaxy S10 Plus at its core. Speaking of similar things, connectivity, we got here the USB Type-C cable. I also see we have a microphone here and one here. Could have needed more. Anyways, there's Wi-Fi A, B, G, N, AC and AX, and also support with MU and MIMO. Aside from that, I should also mention Bluetooth 5.0. There's also NFC, obviously, and what else? 4G LTE category 18, GPS, GLONASS, Beidou, Galileo, and I think that's about it. Now the interesting thing is that you're going to be doing the conversations like this of course closed because the earpiece is here, and when you open up the device it goes to the speakerphone automatically, which is a nice feature and pretty intuitive. You're not going to be holding the phone like this to your ear. I also did a speed test, and you can see it here for the Wi-Fi. 77 megabytes download, 87 megabytes upload. Pretty decent for a flagship phone in not the best day that my network has had lately. And you have here the slot, just in case you're wondering, where you can put your nano SIM. And finally, probably the core sequence of the review, the software. So it's basically Android Pie with One UI, but with some extra things. So first of all, we got a small screen at the exterior side. You can imagine you're using a smaller phone, like an iPhone 7 for example, and of course you can do some browsing if you want to. That's what the keyboard is like, cramped and small. And of course you can also use the camera and all the other apps. And once you're in an app and you open the device like this, the passage between them is seamless and very fast. Such things are useful, especially if you're having the phone hooked in your car to your guidance system, as your guidance system, and you're looking at the map, open it up, and voila, the map. This is an instant switch, sans lag, and I'm pretty impressed by it. Otherwise, you know the drill, you know One UI. It holds stuff here like well, Link to Windows, which came from the Note 10 series. There is also Dolby Atmos, which I forgot to mention earlier. There is the night mode, which is obvious advantages for so many AMOLED panels. There's also the digital well-being. You probably know all this area here with optimizations, biometrics, and security. Speaking of biometrics, I relied heavily on the fingerprint scanner on the side, which for some reason failed me this time, but in general it's quite solid when it comes to the recognition and both speed and also accuracy. However, on account of how thin the device is, there will be times when you will miss it by a bit and not be authenticated. Frankly speaking, I find it easier to authenticate in the closed format than the open one. Anyways, the core experience here is the multitasking, so obviously you can have two windows side by side, split screen view, and let's say maps, for example. So split side by side is no problem. Obviously you can also resize the window, and of course you can also turn the device around like this. But there's a kicker here. Wait till you see this. So if you pull from the side, you can also split the screen in three. So we got this one here, and if you pull again, you should have, as you can see right now, we split the screen in three. And how cool is that? Of course, turn it like this. Once again, you got your gallery here, you got your settings here, and you got your video play here. So keep that in mind next time you're doing something busy. And of course, you can add a fourth window with a pop-up on top if you really like to keep yourself busy. Well, too much is too much sometimes. Now, what's usually the edge screen has been transformed into this area here where you keep your apps, which will overlap and create a triple window experience. Other than that, well, let's see in Chrome, you can see the big format of the keyboard. In the unboxing you saw it split. I went to the settings and found the united one because I did not dig the other one. So frankly speaking, I think people will be using the phone like this more on account of the weird notch, which will eat a part of their content. Other than that, it's pure One UI experience. You can recognize some of the apps here. We got SmartThings, we got Samsung Health, we got Wearable. We got Bixby. Forgot about Bixby, which includes the usual aggregator. Useful things here. Stickers, recommendations, restaurants nearby, the weather, and let's have a quick gander at YouTube as an app on the device, just in case you were curious. That's what YouTube is like. And also, let's see Facebook for a while. This is Facebook on the Samsung Galaxy Fold screen. The notch is eating the part at the top, but it's not eating vital content, and it's actually looking better. So Facebook is one of the few apps which may actually look better with the device turned like this. Okay, so that's it in a nutshell. This has been the software experience, and now I guess it's time for the verdict. Okay, so sometimes I end my reviews with some gaming. I'm curious about some things. So let's see what happens if I try and open a game on the small screen. Asphalt 9. is here, and I'm probably going to lower the volume. It forces me to play it in, well, sort of a landscape. There's an odd thing about asphalt here. There's a tendency to have the phone flip the wrong way, I would say. And of course I'm going to switch. Of course I'm going to switch to the big one. Okay, here we go. Play the race here, and now, as I said before, it's time for a verdict related to the handset. Okay, so it's time for the verdict, and I want to show you something interesting. I have a game open on the small screen. Let's check it out. Asphalt 9. And interestingly enough, it forces me to hold the phone like this. And I'm also curious to show it to you on the big screen, aside from the small one. And here we go. The logical thing would be to hold the phone like this, but somehow the game Loft forces me to hold it like this. So I promised you a verdict for the phone. On the Pro side, it's a pretty looking handset, which is truly powerful. And aside from that, it's got a superb screen, as you can see here in the colors, with the HDR thing and contrast, brightness, whatever you want. It's got the Galaxy S10 Plus camera, which has proven itself to be quite solid, plus an extra selfie camera, which nobody would use. Solid set of speakers, frankly above my expectations, and also above my expectations, the battery. Didn't expect it to be so good. Other than that, I would say some of the problems have been fixed, also on the Pro side, and it's a very nice tablet replacement, but only if you're gunning for smaller tablets, not going to replace a big iPad Pro, for example. And it's quite nice for multitasking, even though the third window, the small one, will be useless. Those are the pros. On the con side, it's still a pretty expensive phone, very expensive actually, and the fold here can be felt with the hand and also seen on a white background. At the same time, the notch eats some of the content and spoils the symmetry, and the videos get some black bars, as you saw earlier on. Other than that, I have to say that there is still some dirt that can get here on the edges. I noticed that tendency of lint to gather around the edges of the phone. And frankly speaking, I cannot imagine many people using this mode, this camera, this screen. They will use this only for notifications, never like a full screen. I have this feeling. Okay, so it's also a phone that may need two hands at some times, because you do not want to drop a $2,000 phone. I'm using one hand, but I got accustomed to it. Some people may need two hands for it. So in a nutshell, people will always remember their first kiss, first love, and the first foldable phone. This was actually the first to be announced from a big brand, the first to almost reach the stores, and finally the first to actually reach the stores, because the Huawei Mate X still not to be found. So this is basically the only option for people going for foldables right now, at least before the Motorola Razr becomes available in a widespread fashion. So I call it a feat of engineering. It solves some of the problems, but if you really want symmetry and something which looks more aesthetically pleasing on account of not having a bar here, well, you're probably going to wait for the second version of it, or maybe for a rival. If you're happy with what Samsung has to offer and want a mini tablet and you don't mind spending some extra bucks, this can be a nifty Christmas gift for you. But once again, it's basically a glorified Galaxy S10 Plus with an extra screen, which you have to ask yourself, do you really need it or not? I think that gamers will need it most than other people, and people who are with Excel, PowerPoint, Word and all that. This has been it from gsno.com. Hope you like this review. It was a bit atypical for us. We had to rush it a bit, and that's because we only had the phone for 2 days. Try to get the best out of it. Don't forget the site, GSM.com. We'll be back with more content soon. Bye bye.